this is going to be a hot take considering how beloved devices like the Switch and the Steam Deck have been in recent years and how successful they were. But if I gotta be honest, I have to say that I hate handheld gaming and what it's now become. As someone who grew up with systems like the Game Boy, DS, PSP, if you compare those amazing handhelds to the Steam Deck and the Switch and the Switch 2 and all the other ones that have been popping up in recent years, they are nothing compared to what we had 20 years ago. The way I see it, handheld gaming died with the 3DS and PlayStation Vita and has never come back since. Because what we have now, it's not real handheld gaming. It's these big tablet-like devices that are not really that portable and don't offer any unique, compelling gaming experiences like the handhelds of old. Because if you think of the DS, for example, it was a very innovative device. It was before the smartphone era, so it was the first platform that was mainstream that actually utilized touchscreen and touch controls in video games, and the whole dual screen format provided for some unique and engaging experiences that you couldn't get anywhere else, and to this day, you still can't get anywhere else. Same thing with the PSP, to be honest. Even though you had a lot of games that were derived from console games, like Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories, that basically took the core console GTA experience and sized it down to a handheld, but it still provided for unique experiences that you could take on the go that at the time you couldn't really before. And the PSP had an amazing library of games, even though you had a lot of games that were like PS2 ports that were significantly underpowered on PSP and didn't play very well, and you're better off just playing the console version. I'm thinking more of games like Star Wars Battlefront 2. That game had a PSP version. The SmackDown vs. Raw wrestling games on PSP. Like, they had a lot of features missing and weren't really as good, but, you know, it really shined with the exclusives, with games like Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker and God of War Chains of Olympus. You know, like, games like that were designed specifically for the handheld experience rather than now. Because nowadays, the entire selling point of a handheld is that it's portable. Nothing else. Just that, oh, you can take all these games that are already on console and PC and play them on the go. Especially with a Steam Deck. I mean, that's the entire purpose of that system, is to take your favorite PC games that are on Steam that you already own, and you already have them in your library, and you can take them on the go. And I'm not face recording, so you can't see my hand gestures, but when I said on the go, I was using air quotes, because the size of these things are just absurd. The Switch 2, the Steam Deck, and all these other ones like the Legion Go, and, you know, I can go on and on about all the ones that have come up, but they're all pretty much the same. Why have we regressed so much where these things, like, no matter what handheld comes out, they're all just massive in size? Having a device that can easily fit in your pocket and was convenient to carry around was the standard in handheld gaming from the original Game Boy that made handhelds mainstream in the first place. So we're talking about late 80s until early 2010s with the PS Vita and 3DS, because those systems also fit very easily in your pocket. So why can't we... This is the thing that I've always asked, and I've always wondered, and I've never gotten an actual answer for, because I just don't... This is one thing that just goes completely over my head. Why can't we have a modern handheld device in the year 2026 that is the size of a PlayStation Vita, but is a modern device that is a capable and powerful handheld? I feel like that should be easier these days, not harder, and not something that should just be unattainable, and that, no, we have to have these big, bulky devices now. That's all you're gonna get now, nothing else. Even the Switch Lite, which was a much smaller version, even that didn't really fit in your pocket. And now I find myself disenfranchised from the handheld experience because it's not as good as it used to be, just objectively speaking. It's not convenient to carry these things around. I don't ever travel around with a backpack. I just keep things in my pocket. Like, I want to be as minimal as possible when going out and about. I don't want to have a bunch of shit with me. If I'm on a road trip, I'm the one driving. If I'm traveling somewhere, I'm not carrying a giant book bag with me. Like, I want to just have everything I need in my pockets. Like, why is that so fucking hard? I don't know. For 25 years, this was expected, and that's how things were, and then suddenly they just weren't anymore. It started with the Switch because it had to be big and bulky to be powerful enough to run certain games because it was a handheld but also a home console. But as a home console, it didn't really have that longevity that you would come to expect, because after a couple years, the third-party games just ran like absolute shit on the Switch, because, you know, when you have this hybrid model, you compromise to the point where it's not as good of a handheld, and it's not as good of a home console when you merge the two together, instead of having those dedicated experiences that are separate. And I'm not knocking Nintendo for what they're doing, because it's obviously working very well, and it makes a lot of business sense to combine those two gaming divisions, because they were two things that were completely separate for many years, to streamline it and combine the development of games for handheld and home console together, because that's what they did with the Switch. And I guarantee you, regardless of how the Switch 2 does, we're going to get a Switch 3, right? Like, we're just going to get one, and that's the future for Nintendo. They're going to keep going down this hybrid model, and they're never going to be separated again. So, again, business-wise, I understand it. As a consumer, I think there's something missing now, not having that dedicated handheld experience, not having it where a developer designs a game specifically for that platform, for that small form factor, and the control layouts and everything, like, all that in mind, that is separate from home console. That's why I hated the PS Vita so much, because it tried so hard to have games like Borderlands and the Telltale Walking Dead, all these other games that were already on a home console, and to just port it over to the PS Vita. And then all the exclusive games, they were just JRPGs and indie games. Sony didn't really make a real effort to bring their quality first-party games over to that system like they did with the PSP, and that's why I hate it. Also, the proprietary memory card that was a complete ripoff, so it was really expensive to be a Vita owner as well. And the 3DS was good too. I liked the 3D effect, but it obviously was lacking compared to the DS. I mean, 3D gaming was something that was supposed to be the next big thing, and that obviously never materialized, so that's why the 3DS wasn't as successful. But, you know, even looking at other systems like the Game Boy Advance, you had, you know, you went from 16-bit in Super Nintendo to 3D 64-bit with the N64. Like, the difference between the fourth and fifth generation was huge, to the point where, like, you know, it was so different. But you also missed out on that 32-bit experience for the home console. Well, with the Game Boy Advance, 32-bit gaming was able to come to life and be fully experienced. Like, you had, like, I miss all those different platforms that we had back in the day that provided something different. Not just, oh, you can play your favorite console games on the go. Yeah, like, no. I want unique things. Like, if I want to have multiple platforms, I want to actually have something different. Not just the exact same as a console, but the games are less powerful and don't run as well. Because that's essentially what the Switch and Steam Deck are. And I mean, yeah, they're exclusives on the Switch that you can't play anywhere else, and they have really good first-party games. Nintendo is still great at that, but it doesn't need to be a handheld in order to have that. Compared to other games, like on the DS and PSP, where, yeah, they needed to be handheld in order to be what they were, like what the games were. Like, they were made for handheld and that specific platform. And think of all the innovation that we've now lost with handheld gaming being essentially dead and not unique anymore. Pokemon. Like, imagine if you didn't have handhelds back in 1996, Pokemon would not be able to exist as it does today. And it's one of the biggest things to ever happen to gaming. So, like, that's a good example. Probably the best one that truly shows, like, what we're missing by not having these distinct platforms anymore. Everything's kind of just uniform now, and it sucks. But the size thing is really something that bothers me. This was something that Sega was mocked for in the early 90s, for the Game Gear being as huge and bulky as it was. And now it's just okay? I don't know why. Why did that happen? Why did our standards get so much lower all of a sudden? And it's fine to have these huge things that aren't actually portable anymore.